Hello and welcome. PDP presidential aspirant Atiku Abubakar, whose National Working Committee members pleads with them to consider capacity and experience in choosing the flag bearer of the party. Though still speculative that former President Goodluck Jonathan will contest for president, senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, says he's not qualified to run for the 2023 presidential election. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo takes his campaign to the South-South, seeks support of the Oba of Benin, says his experience has prepared him for the office of the president. And Governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, urges federal government to seek international support in the war against Boko Haram, as his counterpart from Akwa Ibom, Governor Emmanuel, seeks delegate support from Edo State.
On business news tonight, French oil giant Total Energies announces plan to exit Nigeria's onshore fields, joins the list of oil majors selling their assets in the country.
On sports news tonight, 11 Nigerian para-athletes and 7 coaches to benefit from the Commonwealth Federation Special Training Program ahead of the Birmingham 2022 Games in July.
And from Abuja, ahead of the Workers' Day celebration, Nigeria Labour Congress holds a pre-May Day rally. NLC President asked workers to get their PVCs ready to guard their future as 2023 beckons.
International news from London. The Secretary-General of the United Nations says war in the 21st century is an absurdity as he visits sites around Kiev that have been occupied by Russian troops.
Politics is currently on the front burner in the country as many aspirants pursue their presidential ambition across the board. And for the People's Democratic Party, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, who has made several attempts to become Nigeria's president, is now wooing the party's National Working Committee for another chance. At a meeting in Abuja today, he told the leadership of the party that he's the most qualified for the job. He also asked the leadership of the party to ensure that the best candidate emerges to fly the PDP presidential flag.
Former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is accompanied by some founding members of the People's Democratic Party as he meets with members of the party's National Working Committee. Like several other aspirants who had come before him, Atiku is meeting the party's leadership to ask for their support to fly the PDP presidential flag in 2023.
Mr. Chairman and members of the National Working Committee, I'm really not here to lecture you. I'm just really here to inform you of my decision to run again and also to urge you to provide the right kind of leadership so that the best candidate can emerge. And I dare say, Mr. Chairman, I am the best candidate.
The presidential aspirant presents his credentials, asking that he be given the right of first refusal.
This is a guy who has already 11 million votes in his kitty. And I think as a party, you should give me the right of first refusal.
Just as is done with other aspirants, the national chairman of the party reassures him of the party's determination to conduct credible primaries.
We are not going to take sides with any particular candidate, but we love you all. Our delegates drawn across the 36 states plus Abuja will ultimately gather, hopefully in Abuja, and select one of you.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was the PDP presidential candidate in 2019. Whether the party will give him the ticket for a second time or not is a fate that Atiku and other co-aspirants will know after the party's primaries on the 28th and 29th of May.
A former Deputy Speaker of the Abia State House of Assembly, Cosmas Ndukwe, has approached the Federal High Court seeking to stop the People's Democratic Party presidential primary scheduled to hold on May the 28th. Through his lawyer, Paul Irokoro, the former lawmaker filed an ex parte application asking the court to stop the PDP presidential primary election because the party has not zoned its ticket to the southeast. But counsel to the PDP, Carlo Agokalo, who was in court, challenged the application and asked Justice Donatus Sekokoro not to grant the request of the plaintiff. After considering the argument of the PDP's lawyer, the judge fixed May the 5th for hearing, during which the PDP is expected to show cause why the application should not be granted. Meanwhile, the PDP Zoning Committee, chaired by Governor Samuel Otom of Benue, has submitted its report to the party's National Working Committee. And while the PDP NWC is yet to announce the party's decision on zoning, Governor Otom had denied reports that the Zoning Committee recommended throwing the presidential ticket open. There are certainly more hurdles for serving public officials who are contesting for elected positions, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, is weighing in by advising political appointees to resign their positions before seeking elective office. The Speaker was in London, where he spoke with our London correspondent, Juliana Olainka.
There was a reason for every law. There's a raison d'etre. There's a reason why you make laws, and that particular provision had a reason behind it. It had a mischief that it sought to cure, and I think we all know what that mischief was. But what some appointees have resigned their appointment to seek election, and some remain obstinate, for want of a better word, and hide under the cover that there's a court decision pending that has nullified that provision. But then there's also court decisions that have said that provision or that nullification by the court should not be executed as of yet, and that matter has also been appealed by the National Assembly to set it aside. So invariably, it's a personal decision that they have to make. They run therefore the risk at the end of it all if the court does find that the National Assembly was well within its rights to make such a provision, and you have gone and contested an election whilst still being a political appointee, then you run the very, very, very serious risk of losing of your election being annulled.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan may be nursing the idea of running for president in 2023, but that, according to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, should be jettisoned as the law does not permit him to do so. Relying on Section 137, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, Mr. Falana explains that the law does not allow anyone to be in office for more than a culminative period of 8 years. Citing the case in Marwa versus Nyako 2012, the Supreme Court states that the section prescribes a single term of 4 years, and if a second term, another period of 4 years and not a day longer. And this has already been observed by former President Goodluck Jonathan.
President Jonathan was sworn in as president on the 5th of May, 2010. So he spent a year before he contested in 2011 and won the election. So he's done 5 years already. He's therefore disqualified from contesting another election for a 4-year term. That means he will spend 9 years in office. Now, people are saying, oh, the law will only take effect when it was made in 2017. I will have been persuaded to go along with that argument. But in the case of Tony Obayori and Musa, Tony Obayori and PDP, the Supreme Court held that alteration, fourth alteration, number 21 of 2017, which came into force in 2018, affected the pre-elections that were filed in 2015. In this case, in these two cases, the appellant filed his pre-election cases in 2015. This law came into force 3 years later. And we tried to convince the court that the law cannot be retrospective. And the Supreme Court said no. An amendment of a constitution can be retrospective. And in this case,
Mr. Falana also comments on public officers who are still in their positions and yet to resign. He says the Constitution is not favorable to that, as it says they have to resign first.
The Constitution is saying you apply for a month. I mean, you resign a month before the election. Now, if you do not want to allow political appointees to enjoy such constitutional provision, what you should do perhaps is to say, okay, quit off, I'll apply for leave of absence so that you go and participate. If you win the positions you are contesting for, you won't come back to the office. But if you lose, you should be able to come back.
In the meantime, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is continuing his consultations over his ambition to become Nigeria's next president in 2023. Earlier today, he was in the South, where he sought the support of His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin in Edo State. Professor Osinbajo says that having been exposed to various areas of governance, he believes he's adequately prepared for the role of president.
It's a warm welcome for the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and his entourage, as His Royal Majesty Omonoba Nedu Kwakolokolo Ewaye II, Oba of Benin, receives them at his palace. The Vice President informs the palace he is in the state for political reasons, but deemed it important to visit the palace first. He highlights his desire to serve the nation as one reason he's seeking to run for the presidency.
I have been exposed to every aspect of governance. I also at various times acted as president. I have acquired what will be required to serve this nation in the highest capacity, and to do so, not just in a perfunctory way, but to do so in the most profound manner.
The Oba of Benin extols the Vice President's qualities, assuring him that the palace is praying for him.
If we have politicians in this country that have the fear of God in their hearts, not just to go there to reap the treasury and oppress people, whether the presidential level, the gubernatorial level, I'm sure this country will be better for it.
Oba Ewaye also condemns the action of politicians who turn their backs on the electorate after getting into office.
But what we see, Your Excellency, most of the time, is people rushing to be president, vice president, governors, only to get there to reap the treasury off, enrich themselves, leaving the electorates that put them there high and dry. This kind of thing should change.
Professor Osinbajo thereafter held meetings with the state's All Progressives Congress officials and members behind closed doors, after which he departed for Delta State. Jessica Olubusene, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, more on politics. Plus, Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabo calls for synergy among the security agencies as he visits the force headquarters in Abuja. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. PDP presidential aspirant Atiku Abubakar woos National Working Committee members, pleads with them to consider capacity and experience in choosing the flag bearer of the party. Though still speculative that former President Goodluck Jonathan will contest for president, senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, says he's not qualified to run for the 2023 presidential election. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo takes his campaign to the South-South, seeks support of the Oba of Benin, says his experience has prepared him for the office of president. And the governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, asks federal government to seek international support in the war against Boko Haram, as his counterpart from Akwa Ibom, Governor Emmanuel, seeks delicate support from Edo State. The governor of Akwa Ibom State, Emmanuel, is among those jostling for the presidential ticket of the PDP. And to actualize this, he needs the support of the party's delegates from across the country. And so he's in Benin City, Edo State, to seek the support of Governor Godwin Obaseki and other party members.
This is a visit that Governor Emmanuel considers very important, being a governor of the South-South. So meeting Godwin Obaseki's colleague from the zone, another PDP state, for him is like securing the delegates from Edo State part of the South-South. Governor Obaseki momentarily leaves the meeting of the Southern Nigeria Governors' Wives Forum to listen to his guest, Governor Emmanuel. He says he will consider his request and then goes on to raise another alarm on the state of the nation. Again, he warned of an impending food crisis in Nigeria.
You must add your voices that we should prioritize food above everything else. Because if we don't do something quickly and swiftly and drastically about the rising price of food, we just pray that things don't get out of hand. We should please plead and put pressure on federal authorities that rather than subsidizing things like petrol, we should move those subsidies to food so that people can eat. People need to eat before they can move. It's something of priority, it's something of concern, it's something that's giving us sleepless nights.
And coming out of the meeting, the Akwa Ibom State Governor briefs journalists. He says he's in Edo State to seek delegate support for his presidential ambition.
Coming to see him, number one, this is my brother. I had to officially come and tell him that I'm in this race to win and that it will be better for all of us. He's also a professional in politics like me. So two of us have a lot of things in common. And today I'm in Edo here to talk to our party members and also let them know why it must be PDP, why Nigerians must support us, why Nigerians must stand with us, why Nigerians must also look up to us to rescue and to restore the fortunes and the lost glory of this country.
Governor Emmanuel has visited Lagos, members of the National Working Committee in Abuja, among other states in the country.
Another presidential aspirant and governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, is calling on international support to help Nigeria defeat terrorism. The governor, who was a guest on our breakfast show, Sunrise Daily, says that the president has given his best as far as the Boko Haram war is concerned, and the nation now needs international help to conclude the battle.
President Muhammadu Buhari made a challenging situation, held it and been able to pull back the terrorist attacks. And you judge him based on one occasional incident. And I'm saying, if he was not there, it could have been worse than what he met. But he has made a lot of improvement. You are not noticing because it is the normal human nature. If there is one single isolated incident, it's celebrated. Accumulate them all against the danger, the potential that ISWAP has so much capacity today. Boko Haram linked to Al-Qaeda, ISWAP to ISIS, of targeting Nigeria, their mineral resources. Jesus Christ. It is because people don't understand the international dimension of this security challenge that they dismiss it as if it is a Nigerian issue or it is a leadership issue. It is a global issue with the focus and attention on keeping Nigeria unstable. And so you need some international strategic and security connection to actually address the issue. It's far beyond the president and capacity of the president of Nigeria. It must be something that the nation must cry out to the international community and seek sophisticated digital non-contact warfare to be able to address the challenge.
In the meantime, the PDP says it's commencing screening of its governorship aspirants for the states in the South-South geopolitical zone. The screening exercise is being conducted at the party's zonal office in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, by a committee headed by the governor of Bayelsa State, Doye Diri. Out of the 6 states of the South-South zone, the governorship election will hold in only 4 states of Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Delta and Rivers. Bayelsa and Edo are on the off-season election schedule. The security where the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, says for Nigeria to tackle its current security challenges, there must be synergy among the various security agencies in the country. And he said this during a visit to the Nigerian Police Force headquarters in Abuja, where he announced the Defense Headquarters' preparedness to give the needed support to the force to improve their efficiency. On his part, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, is optimistic about the military going back to performing their constitutional responsibility of defending the country's territorial integrity against external forces rather than being involved in internal security issues. Our correspondent, Empress Simon, reports.
General Lucky Irabo is visiting the police force headquarters for the first time since assuming the responsibility of the Chief of Army Staff. The aim of his visit is to strengthen the synergy between the defense headquarters and the Nigerian police force, and by extension other security agencies.
It's no news that our country is challenged almost on all fronts, but more in particular within the security landscape. And the internal nature of these challenges demands that there must be a closing up of ranks amongst all agencies, the armed forces, the police inclusive, to be able to redress the current challenges that we find across the country.
The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Alkali Baba, believes the visit will further bolster the morale of the Nigerian police force in its quest to maintain and sustain law and order in the country.
We really hope that there will be a time when we will have the military will really go back to its statutory responsibilities and ensure that other agencies that are in charge of safety and security of the nation also perform their duties without actually overstretching the military.
As a demonstration of their partnership, the two exchange gifts.
A mass of respect to also remind you that you've been here in police headquarters.
During the visits, the Inspector General of Police leads his visitors on an inspection of some of the facilities at the force headquarters, including the surveillance drone. The synergy the Chief of Defense Staff is seeking with the Nigerian police force cuts across various areas, including technology. And hopefully, these would go a long way in tackling the security challenges in Nigeria. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
In other security matters, gunmen have attacked a Bullion van in Nguru community, Mbise local government area of Imo State. The Bullion van was said to be returning to Owerri after delivering money at a new generation bank in Mbise local government area of Imo State, but was attacked by the gunmen. According to the Imo State Police Public Relations Officer, Mike Abatam, the driver of the van, while attempting to escape from the attack, caused the vehicle to somersault, but no money was carted away as the van was empty. And when they noticed that it was empty, the gunmen ran away. The Commissioner of Police has already drafted the command's tactical team to the area to restore peace. We cross over to Abuja. Here's Gloria Omezoke. Gloria.
Hello, Ijoma. Well, here in the nation's capital, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, is asking workers to gear up and actively participate in the 2023 general elections, insisting that workers have the numbers to determine who becomes the country's next president. Addressing members at the pre-May Day rally in Abuja, the president of NLC, Mr. Ayuba Waba, urges all workers to get their permanent voters' cards ready and to mobilize their families to vote for candidates who are workers-friendly. The NLC president maintains that the next election would provide political emancipation of the Nigerian workers.
All that we have gotten was not given to us by any government. All that we have gotten as workers around the world was gotten through collective struggle, through the deployment of workers' power. And therefore, even in the quest to have a good political system that will address the monumental challenges that is facing Nigeria today, we need to work collectively. We are also going to work for political emancipation. We'll be very, very active, and by now, if any worker does not have his permanent voter's card, I will show you my own on the May Day. I expect everybody that have it, let us show the politicians. On the May Day, you can display it. 12 million Nigerian workers, 8 million Nigerian pensioners, and your children and your family. By now, if you don't have voter's card, you have not started the journey. In many jurisdictions, I can give you an example. And that is how we need to be politically conscious. American Federation of Labor drove that process through what they called Working America. Working America means every worker in America, in your community and in your locality, you must mobilize 10 people. Whether they are workers or not, they must be active and they must have their voting rights, and they will vote in line with what you try to now advocate. This is the starting point, comrade, and this is the import of this year's May Day.
An Assistant Superintendent of Police, Mr. Bawa James, who is a co-defendant in the drug trafficking case preferred against the suspended DCP, Abba Kyari, and others, will continue in prison custody as the Federal High Court Abuja has dismissed his bail application. In a ruling, Justice Emeka Nwete holds that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, had succeeded to prove its argument beyond doubt why the court should not admit Mr. James to a bail. Justice Nwete further agrees with the argument of the counsel for the NDLEA, Justice Sunday, that James was a flight risk and might jump bail. The judge adds that Mr. James had failed to bring up strong evidence to challenge the NDLEA's submission that the character of evidence against him was very serious. Well, two courts on Thursday gave contradictory decisions on the culpability of the lecturer in the rape and subsequent death of the 13-year-old schoolgirl, Ochanya Ogbanje. A Benue State High Court sitting in Makurdi acquitted Andrew Abuja, a lecturer at the State Polytechnic Obukulu, who was accused of raping and causing the death of Ochanya Ogbanje, a 13-year-old schoolgirl, in 2018. Justice Augustine Otoiman held that the prosecution failed to prove the charge against Mr. Abuja. This decision is in contrast with that delivered at about the same time at the Federal High Court in Makurdi, which convicted Mr. Abuja's wife, Felicia, for negligence over the child after establishing that he raped the minor. Justice Mabolaji Olajuwon handed Felicia Ochiga Abuja a 5-month jail term without an option of fine for failing to protect the child from rape. The 13-year-old schoolgirl was said to have been sent to her auntie Felicia at Ogene Amejo community for access to basic education at the age of 7. But the court was told that things took a turn for the worse when her cousin Victor Abuja was allegedly caught by his father, Andrew Abuja, while raping her. But instead of protecting her, he sustained the abuse. This account was contained in a video evidence tendered by the prosecution. The young girl would later die at the Federal Medical Center in Makurdi on October 17, 2018, as a result of complications arising from the rape. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board has organized a one-day workshop for members of the Bayelsa State Judiciary with the theme Philosophy and the Imperative of the Logic Act. The workshop is poised to highlight the importance of the enactment of the NOGIC Act holds for the future of Nigerians and the Nigerian economy through Nigerian content practice.
Philosophy and the imperative of the NOGIC D Act.
The participants at this one-day workshop taking place at the Content Tower in Yenagoa are from the Bayelsa State Judiciary.
With the responsibility of driving
Welcoming the speakers and participants, the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB highlights that it's imperative for the judiciary to understand that the NOGIC Act is not the Nigerianization of the oil and gas industry, but the domiciliation and domestication of value-adding activities.
Maximize the utilization of Nigerian resources, that is, goods, services, and assets. Maximize participation of Nigerians in the oil and gas activities.
The Chief Judge of Bayelsa State spoke on the role of the courts in attaining the objectives of the NOGIC Act 2010.
Some multinational oil companies have continued to violate the provisions of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Board Act by using expatriates to perform jobs that Nigerians have the capacity to perform.
The judge of the National Industrial Court, who also serves as a speaker, focused on partnering with the bench for effective implementation and enforcement of the NOGIC Act.
The bench's primary role in adjudication of disputes and interpreting the laws by setting out the legal regime of practical application of any law of the land is quite crucial and remarkable in ensuring effective implementation and enforcement of laws of the land.
Head of Legal Services, please a better round of applause for
The head of legal at the NCDMB enumerates the reason behind the setting up and the passage of the NOGIC Act.
The need to create jobs for the locals or nationals. The second and most important benefit is capital retention. All of us are living witnesses to what the state of affairs are with our forex in this country, because most of our earnings come from oil and gas.
Apart from the speakers, there was also a panel session that highlighted the challenges of enforcing the NOGIC Act, the role of the bar and the bench.
The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has made a commitment to assist the Faculty of Law of the Rivers State University to upgrade its facilities to ensure that it remains one of the best in the country. We're speaking during a courtesy visit by a delegation from the law faculty and members of the Law Students Association of Nigeria and LawSan to the NDDC headquarters in Port Harcourt. The interim administrator, Dr. Effiong Akwa, said the commission would continue to increase its investment in human capital development.
The visit by members of the Faculty of Law of the Rivers State University to the NDDC is symbolic, as the current NDDC helmsman is a product of that faculty. In spite of being a state university, the Dean of the faculty and others on his team are proud of the achievements of the institution, and in particular, those who passed through its walls. He, however, says the faculty is not without its own challenges.
In a very few months now, our faculty will be facing accreditation, and we need one or two things to be put in place. So we are asking for some assistance. And then another one is, as one of the best faculties of law in Nigeria, we do not have a boss. So we'll be asking, although that is not included in this letter, we'll be asking for at least a 16-seater boss, you know, if the organization can help the faculty.
The Niger Delta Development Commission boss is a proud alumnus of the faculty and is quick to accede to their request.
Faculty of Law, Rivers State University is one of the best in Nigeria. I sincerely thanks to the workaholic governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Nyesom Wike, who has made that possible. He has funded the place where he has the faculty, the lecture theatre in the Faculty of Law. Rivers State is comparable to what I see in London, what I see in the US. I will approve that they took 18, you requested for 16, you will make it 18 seats. The new 18-seater was for Lawson, that will be written Lawson, Faculty of Law, University of Rivers State University.
He also speaks on the NDDC's new policy of supporting students studying locally, driven by realities of the COVID-19 pandemic.
2 years ago, because of circumstances, the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic that made it impossible for students to go outside the world to study courses like oil and gas law and other research programs in the legal field, we had placed a cap, and we were exploring the opportunity of having a relationship with the universities locally so as to cut down on the foreign exchange and make it possible, even in the face of pandemic, to train our people. I think we didn't go too far to select Rivers State University Faculty of Law. So we start building on this relationship.
In an earlier address, the president of the Law Students Association says they have been following activities of the NDDC interim administrator and are proud of his achievements.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Ijoma.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gloria. One of the leading brands in telecommunications, MTN Nigeria Communications PLC, has announced a dividend of 13 Naira 50 kobo for its shareholders. The chairman of MTN, Mr. Ernest Ndukwe, made this known in Ikoyi, Lagos, during its 2022 annual general meeting. Mr. Ndukwe says the COVID-19 pandemic provided an opportunity for MTN to push its business to the public.
MTN Nigeria Communications PLC holds its 2022 annual general meeting at the rooftop event hall, MTN Plaza, Falomo, Ikoyi, Lagos.
Shareholders holding...
Only a limited number of shareholders are attending physically, with others joining virtually to deliberate on the financial statement for the year ended December 31st, 2021, the director's report, and the expected dividend payout.
The total dividend for the year ended 31st December 2021 to 13 Naira 12 kobo, subject to withholding tax, be and is hereby approved.
They give MTN a pat on the back for the growth recorded in the past year.
MTN have done well as a company, communication where people bond their credit and speak. Call, one end to the other by data or voice, so basically they have done very well.
Mobile data, digital subscribers, data usage and population coverage also saw significant growth for the year under review, with subscriber numbers taking the lead. The revenue, capital expenditure and adjusted free cash flow also had their share of high performance. Other matters attended to include the re-election of directors and the company's audit committee. There's more good news for MTN customers with regards to the integration of the 5G network.
We will continue to innovate in order to make sure that our people continue to enjoy good services, and they'll vote by patronizing our services.
We continue to execute on our promise to deliver first world top-class technology and an experience to Nigerians and to our customers. We are not perfect, but we are always striving to get better, and we will deliver good quality services, including the launch of 5G in H2 2022.
After 20 years of connecting 68.5 million Nigerians, MTN Nigeria Communications is even more determined to lead digital solutions for Africa's progress by 2025.
Nigerian Breweries PLC has flagged off the expansion of civil work at the Ama Brewery located at 9th Mile Corner in Enugu State. According to the chairman of NBL PLC, Chief Kola Jamodu, the expansion will continue to put NBL as the biggest in Africa. The event was attended by the Chief Executive Officer of Heineken, Dolph van der Brink, and the representative of the Minister of Trade and Investment, as well as a representative of the Governor of Enugu State.
Key players in the beverage subsector of the Nigerian economy, management of Nigerian Breweries PLC and government officials are gathered here for the commissioning of the expansion of civil works at Ama Brewery in Enugu State. It's a project the Nigerian Breweries is committed to ensure quality of products.
This project will make our biggest brewery even bigger. That's Ama Brewery. It's the biggest presently and will in fact make it much bigger.
A worthy investment is how the CEO of Heineken, Dolf van den Brink, describes the project, a reason why his company is a part of it.
Heineken is investing 112 million euros in this important AMA expansion project because we see ourselves as playing a major role in Nigeria's future. We're proud to be part of the growth and development of this wonderful state and country.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, who is represented at this event, calls for synergy amongst government agencies to ensure the success of the project.
No doubt our collective success story will be that of fund retention, transfer of skills, social economic development, domestication of overall processes and employment generation.
As a state, we reiterate our commitment, willingness and readiness to continue to partner with Ama Brewery in its business endeavors.
The event progresses with the unveiling of the plaque and then tree planting by the Secretary to the Enugu State Government and the Chief Executive Officer of Heineken.
A round of applause.
On the sidelines, traditional rulers of the host community confer a chieftaincy title on Mr. Dolf van den Brink to show appreciation for the investment that has transformed the local economy.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Anne Waudu.
Thank you, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. French oil giant Total Energies says that it will put up for sale its minority stake in the Nigerian oil joint venture. Its chief executive officer, Patrick Bullion, mentioned this in a conference call that the multinational oil company is planning to offload its 10% interest in a firm that holds 20 onshore and shallow water permits in the country. This announcement of Total Energies' exit after operating in Nigeria's oil market for over 60 years is coming as its major counterparts, Shell and Exxon, are already in the process of leaving the onshore fields of Africa's largest crude producer. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has asked Nigeria and other oil-exporting countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, to build buffers that could shield them from further economic shocks. In a statement made today, the IMF explains that the rising oil prices, which is largely driven by the Russia-Ukraine war, has presented great opportunities for countries that could enable them recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the International Finance Institution warns that the effects of the war in Ukraine will be deeply consequential, eroding standards of living and aggravating macroeconomic imbalances. Let's now head to the stock market, where it is still in a winning path, as its value increased today by more than 143 billion naira, following a surge in volume and value of transactions. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the local bourse is still galloping its way into positive territory, and this time by a wider margin when compared to Wednesday's session. At the close of today's equities trading, the key indicator of the market performance went up by more than 0.5%, deeper into the 48,000 level it just reached a week ago on gains from 34 equities, most notably the shares of Seplat and MTN Nigeria. Now, here's how the sectoral performance looked today. It's green color across the 5 main counters of the equities listed on the NGX, which shows that investors' appetite for stocks is going higher, with month-to-date gain at nearly 4%. On the gainers list, Multiverse shared the top spot with Cadbury Nigeria. Both advanced by 10%. Champion Breweries led the 16 other decliners, down by 6.88%, while FCMB was the most traded stock by volume and value. Well, it's one more day to the end of equities trading in April, and traders are betting on a positive close in Friday's session. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to you.
And that's business news for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Ijoma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has met Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv after visiting some of the war-torn sites left behind by the retreating Russian forces. For more on this and other international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Secretary-General of the United Nations says war in the 21st century is an absurdity as he visits sites around Kyiv that had been occupied by Russian troops.
There is no way a war can be acceptable in the 21st century. Look at that.
Antonio Guterres visited Bodianka, Bucha and Irpin. All along the route he passed scenes of terrible destruction. Houses, shops, infrastructure smashed to burned ruins by the bombs and shelling.
This horrific scenario demonstrates something that is unfortunately always true. The civilians always pay the highest price. Innocent civilians were living in these buildings. They were paying the highest price for a war for which they had not contributed at all.
It comes as the Kremlin warns that sending heavy weapons to Ukraine threatens security in Europe. Meanwhile, Mariupol City Council says the 100,000 residents that remain there are in mortal danger due to what they call unsanitary and medieval conditions. Authorities say there's a risk from diseases such as cholera and dysentery due to the lack of sanitation. Germany's lower house of parliament has overwhelmingly approved a petition on support for Ukraine, backing the delivery of weapons including heavy arms to the country. The petition said that the most important and effective means to stop the Russian invasion is to intensify and speed up the delivery of effective weapons including heavy arms. The petition was backed by both the 3 parties in the ruling coalition as well as the opposition Conservatives, passing with 586 votes in favour to 100 against. Meanwhile, the Secretary-General of NATO says the organisation will be ready to quickly welcome Finland and Sweden should they decide to apply for membership. Jens Stoltenberg told reporters it's up to each country to decide whether to apply for membership, but they would be welcomed with open arms to NATO if they chose to do so. Russia, which shares a border with Finland, has previously said it would have to rebalance the situation with its own measures if Finland's NATO bid went ahead.
We are in dialogue with Finland and Sweden, and it's their decision. But if they decide to apply, Finland and Sweden will be warmly welcomed and expect the process to go quickly.
Israelis and Jews from around the world have paused to mark the country's Holocaust Remembrance Day. The sound of a single-tone siren rang out across the country at 10 a.m. local time. The annual commemoration held to remember the 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis during the Second World War. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and President Isaac Herzog also attended a wreath-laying ceremony at Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. Schools in Sri Lanka's largest city have shut and several train stations closed as teachers and train drivers joined mass walkouts demanding the government quit. Hundreds of employees from Sri Lankan state-run banks, most wearing black and carrying black flags, also joined the other bank trade unions in a protest march to the president's office as thousands of people took to the streets around the country. They're demanding President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government quit over Sri Lanka's worst financial crisis in decades. The parents of a US Marine freed in a prisoner swap with Russia have spoken of their joy at his release.
I was sitting on the couch and I was sitting on a chair, so I couldn't see her face, but I know I was crying.
Trevor Reed had been held in a Russian jail since 2019, but was traded for Konstantin Yaroshenko, a Russian jailed on drug smuggling charges. Speaking outside the Reed home in Texas, his mother said she felt almost as good as the day he was born.
It has been hard. It's been really a lot of stress between Joey and I, between our daughter. I feel for my daughter because, she called me, she says, it's all things Trevor. So we kind of joke about it. And so she'll say, Mom, I want to come over and see you. So it's no things Trevor this weekend. And I go, okay, that's fine. But it's all consuming. It really is.
And Finland's Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, was greeted by an unusual guest during her official visit to Athens. Meeting the Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, she was also welcomed by his dog, Peanut. The two posed for the official greeting photo with the stray that was adopted last year. And this is just the latest leader to meet Peanut, who has been stroked by many leaders in the halls of the official building and is often heard barking in the background during news conferences. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. To some sports now. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Yes, indeed, Ijoma. Welcome to Sports News. The Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development has confirmed that 11 para-athletes and 7 coaches will benefit from the Commonwealth Games Federation Special Program ahead of the Birmingham 2022 Games in July this year. This is to support the development of inclusive pathways and remove barriers to participation for people with disability become actively involved in sports. The athletes and coaches are expected to access additional skills, knowledge and resources for special training in Durban, Dubai and Birmingham. In the UEFA Europa League, a late Angelino wonder strike has given RB Leipzig a crucial 1-0 win over Rangers in the first leg of their semi-final tie. West Ham United must win in Germany to reach the final after a 2-1 defeat by Eintracht Frankfurt in the first leg played at the London Stadium. The second legs come up next week. In the English Premier League, Cristiano Ronaldo has scored his 17th goal of the season to earn Manchester United a point against Chelsea at Old Trafford. The Blues dominated from the start and got their reward with a Marcos Alonso goal in the second half. But just a minute later, against the run of play, Ronaldo equalised with a fine finish. The final 3 bidders interested in purchasing Chelsea FC will have to stump up an extra £500 million to buy the club at the demands of Roman Abramovich. This comes just days before an announcement of the preferred bidder is set to be revealed. £1 billion could be handed to charities, making it one of the biggest donations in British history. And that's Sports News.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. PDP presidential aspirant Atiku Abubakar woos the National Working Committee members and pleads with them to consider capacity and experience in choosing the flag bearer of the party. And also today, we told you that the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was in the South to seek support of His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin, and also met with All Progressives Congress delegates before proceeding to Delta State. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Good night.